Doing what we ain't supposed to, girl, that's why I chose you. I don't wanna impose, just listen close to my poems. Girl, don't worry, ain't nobody know. Hey guys. So basically, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I woke up. So this is going to be an ascension video, and it's going to be pretty personal to me. So basically, what happened was in 2015, I believe, I was in a car wreck, and this car wreck ended up changing my life. So I I was it was a rainy day. I was texting and driving, and I kept hearing a voice in my head saying, stop texting and driving, stop texting and driving. And I was trying to listen to it, but at the same time, I ended up ignoring it. And what happened was, um, like maybe the second time I heard the voice, immediately like something happened bad. I was texting and I looked up, and at the split second I looked up, I realized all the cars in front of me were coming to a stop. So I had to hurry up and stop, and it was rainy. And whenever it's rainy and you're driving, you run the risk of hydroplaning. So I ended up hydroplaning, and I hit the car in front of me. Um, and I hit the car in front of me. So what ended up happening is I had my seatbelt on, but I ended up like jerking forward, and my head hit the windshield, and it like cracked the windshield. And it was such a sad day. It was a brand new car, and it was completely totaled. I called the police, and or somebody else called the police, and the police ended up coming. I think the person I hit called the police actually. My family wasn't in town to help me, and I remember calling this boy that I had just met, and he was so angelic, and I really felt when I met him, I was like, this could be a potential like soulmate for me, because it's undeniable when you meet someone and you just have this really strong connection. You think this person could be like it for me. So I remember calling him, and he's really mysterious and like really magical person. So he ended up coming to get me, and by this time I'm really shaken up. I think I had gotten a concussion from cracking the windshield of my car with my head. Um, and I remember he ended up coming. So I ended up going back to his house, and the weird thing about his house is like where I grew up very like kind of wealthy, upper middle class, and he was even more wealthy than I was. And the weird thing about his home was he had this alarm clock. His parents and we were teenagers, so it was his parents' home. Had this alarm clock plugged into the front lawn, and it read 11:11, and it would just flash 11:11, 11:11, 11:11. So that already was like mysterious for me, and I was intrigued by this. And so the whole time, like I'm kind of still loopy in and out of my consciousness. I think he ended up taking me to go get like a new shirt because I was wearing my work clothes, and I was working at Twin Peaks at the time. Twin Peaks is like a really revealing sports club bar. It's like a sports bar, and all the girls walk around in like a tiny like two-piece set. So he ended up getting me a longer t-shirt that I could change into so I could be presentable, to be around his family. So what we ended up doing that day is just like camping out at home. His mom made pizza. We ate pizza, and I stayed until it was dark, and then I got home. Um, and so like in going home, I remember feeling the sense of otherworldliness. I felt like I was already in tune to a different world. After leaving his home, I felt like I was in tune with a different world. I don't know if it was just that or maybe a concussion. So I was like going back and forth in my mind. Am I losing my mind? Do I have a concussion so bad that I feel like I'm in another dimension? Or is it that I just went through a major portal? Because like I was telling you guys, right before I crashed, I kept hearing this voice telling me, stop texting and driving, like stop distracting yourself while you're on the road. So when I left his house, I ended up going over to my best friend Chloe's house at the time. Her name was Chloe. She's really into like learning about chakras, learning about the pineal gland, learning about our third eyes, learning about how to open our third eyes. So she's one of my more spiritual friends. A lot of my friends didn't care about that stuff, but she did. So I ended up going over there and telling her what happened. Like I just got in this major car wreck. So she was giving me a place to stay for the night, just camping out so I wouldn't be alone while having this concussion. Her boyfriend Keenan was there. And then another girl, Donesty, was there, and Donesty's sister was there. So it was quite a packed house. Um, so we end up hanging out there for a while. Um, so we ended up hanging out there for a while, and I can't remember like sensing this other presence around. It was this creepiest night. We were smoking marijuana all night, and I kept getting messages, like weird hidden signals from them telling me, like, don't fall asleep, you have a concussion, kind of like eerie. Like, don't fall asleep, you have a concussion. And so right after I eventually left that place, and it was this creepiest night. Like I felt so out of place. I was getting these weird etheric messages. Um and I just felt really weird all night. I kind of jumped out of order from what I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to go into another story about how I woke up. So that message that night tuned me into the sense of otherworldliness. It tuned me into feeling like there's this higher power watching me, guiding me, telling me what to and to not do. Um, and I can equate that power to God, because God is kind of this omnipotent, all-knowing creature who guides us and wants us to either do good or to follow his set path, and that way we can receive his blessings. So I can tell you that experience tuned me into this omnipotent feeling. Another day of, I can't remember which one happened first. I think the party happened first. Um, Wait, let me think. You can buy that at the mall. You can try that at the mall. No, the day that his name was Lane, the friend that came and picked me up from the car wreck, his name was Lane, and I'm pretty sure the day I got the concussion happened first because that's when I lost my car. Okay, so this is the second part of me like starting to wake up into this more spiritual realm. And starting to understand what this omnipotent sense that was guiding me is called and what that is. Um, so I remember going to this party. It was my friend's going away party. She was going to move to Colorado. Um, and and so I go to this party, and we're smoking like we're smoking a little bit of weed, and I remember getting this eerie feeling again, like being watched, or my friends like their actions not lining up with their thoughts. And it's really hard to explain. It's very difficult to explain when you feel it, but you'll feel like you're watching someone and what they're saying does not line up with who they are. Or you'll feel this sense of dishonesty with what they're saying, doesn't match their intention for the message that they want to get across to you. So I was feeling this weird disconnected feeling from everyone at the party. Mind you, we are smoking marijuana. Marijuana is known to change your consciousness in a way that like will get you high. Obviously, it has cannabinoids in it that affect your physical body and give you a euphoric feeling. But as a spiritual teacher, it also takes you like ayahuasca would take you, and it takes you onto this like spiritual journey. So we're smoking marijuana again. Everyone's partying. I can't tell you if it was near Alsamine. Like the pagan holiday for Halloween when the veil gets thinner. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Samhain. Um, I don't know if it was near Samhain when the veil was getting thinner between worlds, but it really, really, really felt like it. Um, so yeah, I go to the party, And about an hour and a half in, I'm starting to get this really weird disconnected feeling. I'm starting to get this dishonest feeling from everyone. It's really dark outside. I had gotten in that car wreck earlier that year, I believe. I cannot, for the life of me, I can't remember what happened first, if I went to the party first or if I had the car wreck first. Because I had the car and I was working, yeah, I'm pretty sure I got in the car wreck first. So, yeah, I'm having the second feeling of the same feeling that I was getting that night of being disconnected and being in between these two different worlds. So, um, so by like an hour, 2 hours into the party, I'm feeling this feeling, and I remember my friend telling me like, what I remember hearing all these voices, and the party just starts going wrong. Like this girl starts arguing with me, but she's not arguing me with her words. She's arguing with me like through another form of communication, and I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what this disconnected, otherworldly feeling even was. So I'm like noticing like everyone's aura is kind of like off for me. And like, I don't know if it's just me or if I'm just like in my mind too much and I'm imagining things. Huh, mom? Sorry guys, my mom was talking to me, but so I'm getting this feeling and I remember this girl like arguing with me, but she's not arguing with me with her words. She's arguing with me like through this other tone of voice, and I'm just hearing it all in my head. So it gets so elevated to the point I'm really bad with confrontation, and it really, when someone's angry at me, it really takes me into a negative space. Yes, mom. So, it takes me into this negative space. So I'm just kind of hanging out, starting to get a feeling like really fogged up, like really dense. Um, and I remember like almost like getting on the verge of a breakdown because I'm having this huge disconnect from everyone. I'm feeling like this girl is arguing with me. I told you guys like I don't deal with that well. So I started getting even more withdrawn. And by this point, I'm starting to actually see shadows, like these apparitions moving around, um, just moving around and like being so negative and so dense. um, I was actually watching a video today from Earth Angel Rosa, and she was talking about the same like shadowy apparitions and where that comes from, and she was connecting that to her experience as a child going through um, this period in her life where she would see like the same apparitions that I was seeing. That's what inspired me to make this video because she was talking about in her childhood seeing these same dark entities, and that's what I started sensing at the party. So by that time, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely in a whole nother world. Um, so in the Bible, I know that they talk about the valley of shadow of death, and that's where I feel like I was getting tuned into because I'm already smoking marijuana. I had already gotten into that car wreck where I felt like I had this omnipotent power watching over me. So I feel like I was really in the valley of shadow of death. I really do. Or maybe I was sensing spirits that reside there, and that's where the marijuana had kind of teleported me to. Sidelines in prior times. Okay, so I end up getting so worked up that I'm like sitting at this campfire, and I remember everyone's kind of like like turning their back on me a little bit, and I'm just sitting next to this campfire and I hear all these voices, and the voices are like every time I try to move I get sat back down by these voices telling me, well, aren't you Emanuela, aren't you Faith, aren't you the one that's supposed to make all of this better? They're kind of like taunting me, why can't you make this better, why can't you make this better, why can't you be you? So I'm just like so heavy, so dense. I'm sitting next to this campfire all alone. People start moving away from me because they notice that like I'm tripping out a little bit. So I ended up leaving the party. And I'm really shaken up because I'm seeing all these dark spirits. I'm hearing voices. I got into an altercation with someone without even verbally speaking to them. I can just hear the voice in their mind telling me, like, like she was just kind of like, "I'm better than you. I'm better than you," and it kind of like got to me. Um, So by the time I leave, I end up calling a cab. I bike there. I use my bicycle to get there. I end up leaving my bicycle there. I call the nearest cab and I'm out of there. And it starts pouring down rain. And I remember like I was homeless during that time. I had lost my place, so I had nowhere to go. I just end up going like wherever I can go. I end up like going to campus because that's the only place I felt safe. So I go to campus and I try opening all the doors, like seeing if I can get in somewhere. And I think this hospital, I think it was a hospital. I don't even know how to get back there if you ask me. But I think it was a hospital. It ends up being open. So I sit in there on my laptop all night, Googling, what is this? Like, what are all these voices? How can I be hearing voices from people's minds? And then I got tuned into what clairvoyance was. Not clairvoyance, excuse me, what clairsentience was and what clairsentience is. And clairsentience deals with clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience. Clairvoyance is being able to see things in a spiritual dimension that aren't really there, so that would explain the shadows. Clairaudience explains being able to hear things that aren't being said with the mouth. So that would be an example of why I could hear the voices from her, from that girl, and why I could hear the voices from the shadowy apparitions. And then claircognizance, I didn't have any claircognizance happening to me that night, but claircognizance is kind of knowing things without having any proof or without being told them. You just kind of know these things for no reason. It's kind of like being psychic. Like, say, you can tune into where somebody died. The police are looking for a dead body, and you're getting visions of where this dead body is without being told by anyone. That would be claircognizance. Um, so like during this time, I told you guys I was homeless. If you're worried about me, I ended up not being homeless that entire year. I think it was the summer that this happened. Yeah, I definitely got in the car wreck first because the car wreck happened in spring. And then in the summertime, my friend was moving and I became homeless. And I remember in the summertime, it's also when I got a new place. So during the summer, I started playing around with pendulums and I started getting tuned into the Akashic record. I was guided to the Akashic record, I believe, by angels. Like I told you guys, I was having this sense of like an omnipotent being watching over me, guiding me, telling me what to do for my highest good. And I remember like the Akashic records being downloaded to me on my phone. Like I was just pitter pattering on my phone one day, and then the Akashic, this link towards what the Akashic records are, comes to me. So I start playing around with all these little spiritual elements after experiencing the other side, after experiencing this otherworldly, like dark, mysterious feeling. So that's kind of how I woke up. That car crash, it all started with that car crash. It all started with hearing that voice telling me not to text and drive. It all started with me cracking my head open on that windshield. It kind of all started there. Um, I remember the experience being pretty dark and heavy. It was definitely really dark and heavy and scary. It's not like a pleasant place to be. Um, so that's kind of the story about how I woke up, the events that led to me waking up. Hopefully that was interesting to watch. I'm going to do one more video on Ascension today and how I feel about Ascension and what I think Ascension is. So I hope that this video isn't too grainy and that it's not lagging. I'm going to rewatch it, and if it turned out well, I'll upload it, and if it didn't turn out well, then I guess you guys will never see this. But um, that was kind of my take on how I woke up and how I tuned into my spirituality. So I hope that was pretty interesting to watch. Bye, guys.